Welcome to our episode of Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down. Sponsored by Bible Interact and hosted by Dr. George Sparks. Now let's explore the field of archaeology in today's episode.
Welcome, everybody. This is Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down, sponsored by Bible Interact. I have a special guest today, Dr. Scott Stripling from Texas. He is the Director of Excavations at ancient Shiloh, and also he's the provost for the Bible Seminary in Katy, Texas. Also, I think we did a few classes over at Trinity Southwest many, many years ago. I believe I gave you some rides over to the airport. So I got some familiarities with the doctor. And also, we got David with us. He's no longer just a participant, he's a co-host.
That's awesome.
So, and of course, Dr. David Graves, retired professor from Liberty University. Scott, if you would, you were going to tell us about your trip to Israel, not really just the trip, but the excavation. And I'm sure the listening audience is aware of what's going on in Israel today. But yet you took a crew over there and you had quite the experience. So at this time, if you would, I know that you already told us you're pressured because you got other meetings today, and I appreciate that you took this time to celebrate with us 250,000 subscribers, of which we are very, very grateful for, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, we asked Dr. Scott Stripling if he would share for us this exciting excavation at ancient Shiloh. So doctor, if you would, please.
First of all, congratulations, you guys, on this milestone. 250,000 viewers is a really big deal. I'm super proud of you, super excited for you, glad to be involved in some way and just to watch this thing rise. You're talking about relevant things, the relationship between Bible and archaeology. And of course, there's an enormous appetite for this. And especially if you're not trying to downgrade that relationship. You know, you're not looking skeptically, you're looking critically, not skeptically, and you're going to find that this is just going to keep on growing. So I'm looking forward to being back on later when we hit 1 million views. So congratulations to you guys.
Good. Yeah, it's always great. And we're pretty surprised, and we never believed that it would grow this fast, this long. I think the last time you were on, Scott, we were looking at our 100,000 mile mark.
Yeah, celebrating that milestone. So this is really awesome. There's always an adventure when we go into the field. And David, you and I have been on other adventures that would take a lot of time to talk about today. So we'll stay focused on the season at hand.
Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Stripling, and I'm from Texas. I teach full-time in the Humanities Department at Wharton County Junior College, and I'm here with my partner.
I'm Dr. David Graves from Crandall University in New Brunswick, Canada, and we're just working here on the Roman area.
We're standing in the southeast corner of our large structure that measures 40 by 35 meters. This was the first corner that Dr. Graves and I exposed 4 seasons ago. This was the only part sticking up, and we've been working now. This was our 5th season working on the building.
Yes, we're standing here in a Roman bathhouse. It would date from the time period of the 1st century, early Roman, all the way through to the Byzantine, and all the way through to probably the Umayyad, even later. We're still trying to find some pottery for those different periods to date it, but early indications are that's what we have here as a Roman and Byzantine bathhouse.
But you never know what's in store for you. And I like to say that while these things catch us by surprise, they never catch God by surprise. And, you know, when we have a belief in God's sovereignty, that our steps are ordered by the Lord, then when we do encounter unexpected challenges, then there's a real confidence that we have, and we can lead from a position of confidence and a position of faith. And that's what I tried to do in the situation in which we found ourselves. So to set the context, we knew there was a war going on. It had started, you know, back on October the 7th. And we went from 225 registered volunteers in 2023 down to 75 in 2024. the war was very fresh in people's minds and a lot of anxiety. The next year, this last season, we registered 135 volunteers, and so sort of beginning to climb back. The war was still going on, but people kind of had acclimated to it. We did not anticipate that we would get a war within a war. And so, of course, when the trouble broke out with Iran and we could see this coming, and then when, of course, the U.S. got involved in the thing, the tensions got much higher. So we had excavated for 4 seasons, 4 weeks. We had great finds. We were exposing more of our monumental building, which we believe is likely the Tabernacle structure. The gate complex, we've found another pillar has now emerged in the gate complex. The Favissa, we had a tremendous success identifying the core Favissa from the dissipating Favissa. So, and along the way, scarabs and bula and inscriptions and all these cool finds, that come with archaeology. But on Friday of week 4, which, we always say the last day of the dig, there's something big that happens.
Yeah.
Well, we were planning to stay in week 5 to do restoration work, just a little bit more excavation, but primarily conservation of walls and things like that, and processing of the finds. So it wasn't that the season was over, but the primary excavating was going to end on that Friday. And so at about 3 a.m., our phone started to blow up with the emergency alerts, notifying us that there was an imminent attack in Jerusalem. People should seek shelter and so forth. So of course we have breakfast at 4. So I knew I would see everybody at 4, and people's minds are racing. Are our flights going to be canceled because a lot of people are going to leave the next day? What do we do? I immediately got an email from my good friend, who's the manager of our hotel and Net Tours, who said, "Scott, you're not going to be able to dig today. There's orders to shelter in place." And my response was, "My dear friend, I love you, but you don't decide if we're digging today or not. I appreciate your advice, but I'll make that decision, assuming that the Antiquities Authority lets us go and that we get through the checkpoints and that we're into Shiloh and everything." I think, in my opinion, the best thing for the mental and spiritual health of my team is to stay in our routine. And if we sit here and stay in a bunker all day, I'm going to have a bunch of nutcases on my hands. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to change anything. And we're safer in Shiloh than we are in Jerusalem.
Right.
We'll process all that we need to process, but we're going to dig. And so, sure enough, the Antiquities Authority gave me the thumbs up, and they led us through the checkpoints, and we got in and were able to finish our final week of excavation. Of course, I could see the stress in people's faces also. What are we going to do? Some people, it was a money situation. What if we're stuck here for another week or two? How am I going to pay for the hotel and new flights and so forth? And fortunately, by lunchtime that day, which for us is 10:30 in the morning because we were early, by 10:30, I had a very generous donor come forward and give $25,000. And then I would open a crowdfunding campaign to go along with that. And so I felt like we would be able to raise at least $50,000. So I was able to tell our team at lunchtime, "Look, guys, I know you're in faith." And back at breakfast, incidentally, I said, "No one's required to come with us to the dig. If you feel like you should stay behind, then it's a judgment-free zone. You do what you need to do." But the entire team wanted to stay together, wanted to come to the dig site. And so when I told them at lunch that any expenses that you incur beyond what you already were going to incur, we're going to cover those 100%. Flights, travels, cancellations, meals, extra nights in the hotel, whatever that might be. You could just see this sort of heaviness lift off some people, like, especially younger folks who were there, like, what am I going to do? We're looking at thousands of additional dollars that I didn't have. And, we all came into one spirit, sort of like 2 Corinthians 10 talks about the Israelites when they passed through the Red Sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink. And when they came through, they were a different people because of a shared experience and a shared suffering. And over the next few days, we did continue to work for a few more days. at the site doing conservation and processing finds. And finally, on Tuesday morning, my boss's boss, the head of the Antiquities Authority, called me and said, look, you guys have had my support and my admiration, because not only are you the only ones to ever excavate in Israel, in the history of Israel, in the snow, but now you're the only ones to ever excavate during a war, because all the other digs shut down. He said, you had my blessing, but I have a boss, and my boss says that's it. And so I said, okay, well, just let me go back tomorrow so we can put everything away and, get everything stored properly for the coming season. And so then we worked from the hotel the next couple of days, and I made a trip into Tel Aviv to get with our ceramic typologist. So really, we were able to accomplish everything that we needed to accomplish. And along the way, the plans are unfolding. How are we going to get out of Israel?
Right.
Because the Ben Gurion airport is closed and it's not opening anytime soon.
Right.
And in Amman, which logically you would think we'll just cross over into Amman because it's much closer. You and I have done that plenty of times.
Yeah.
But they were opening and closing periodically depending on what was going on too. And I thought, man, if I send people over to Amman and they're stranded there for days, that's going to be much worse than being here with us at our comfortable hotel in this supportive environment where we kind of have control of the situation.
Right.
So I didn't want to do that. And then I looked at Cyprus because I had flown in through Cyprus. All of our flights were canceled arriving also, and because of the first war. And so we had to, work through that. So I had arrived through Cyprus and then picked up a new itinerary and got in. So I began to work on a boat. If we can get a boat to Cyprus, we can fly out through Cyprus. There were complications with that also. But the one constant through the whole thing was Cairo. Cairo never closed their airport. All the airlines were flying. The flights were cheap. And over a couple of days, it became clear to me, thinking and praying and processing this whole thing, that Cairo was the best way. And I can't say that the angel Gabriel appeared to me like he did to the Holy Family and said, take them to Egypt,
Sure.
But I did have a sense that was the path for us, was Cairo.
Right.
And so I arranged the first group. I still had over 100 people there with me at this point. And so working with Net Tours, who has offices on the Israeli side and on the Egyptian side, we coordinated everything. A bus will leave at 4:59 in the morning, our usual time that we depart. We'll be at the border in about 3.5 hours, a couple of hours to cross over, depending on how crazy things are. It's never simple, doing those things.
Right.
And then there will be someone waiting for us at the border with a sign holding up our name with another Net Tours bus that we'll be able to board. And we'll take the long drive because of some security concerns through the Sinai. We're going to see some incredible things that we haven't seen before. We'll have lunch at Nueva Beach. You'll be able to look across at Saudi Arabia, and perhaps, in some people's view, this is one of the primary candidates for the site of the Red Sea crossing, and then on up to Cairo, all in one day. And so about 8:30 that night, we should arrive at the hotel, which is a very nice 4-star hotel, 10 minutes from the airport, and we're going to pay for all of this. And so we're going to get this first group out, 35 people this way. And we did, and it worked beautifully. And, we were able to stay in touch, because of technology along the way and everything that's happening. Everyone got out smoothly, no problems. Well, when this happened, David, then others began to hear who were trapped in Israel, because there are tens of thousands of people trapped in Israel, foreigners who are trying to get out. And they heard that we had found a way out. And so people began to contact me like, hey, can you help us get out also? Which, of course, I was very happy to do. And so the next day, I arranged another group to go out, some more of our people, but mainly other people from other groups did the exact same process. And so then I had more people contacting me, and by this point, you guys have to understand the governments are getting involved. Like the Governor DeSantis from Florida was trying to get boats chartered to Cyprus to get people out. Ambassador Huckabee at this point had gotten engaged in sort of the same plan with the Israeli government. And so there were still 35 people left with me at this point, and they all decided we're not splitting up, we're not going anywhere. And you know, remember Ronald Reagan's famous statement? What was it? The 8 words that you never want to hear. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
We thought, you know, we already have a solution. And I even had people who were employees of an embassy reaching out to me. They had more confidence in what we were doing than you know, the governmental solution. And so they joined in with us. And so on the final group, I decided we're going to leave on Saturday morning, and everybody plan your flights out for Monday, because Sunday I'm going to take you guys to the pyramids, to the new Egyptian museum, and
Wow.
we're going to turn a negative into a positive. And just a lot of enthusiasm, of course, at that point. And so we then took the third wave out, and then once I knew, had everyone on their flights and everyone was gone, then I boarded my flight and left as well. So I called the whole thing the reverse exodus. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, we had some fun. I remember the year we took a group we crossed over from Jordan, remember, to
Yeah.
Israel, and then we crossed back to Jordan and dug for a while. And it was a small group, but I guess we got our baptism in those early days of
Yeah.
how to set things up. We were sort of doing it on the fly back then. So it's great that providentially everything worked out, and you probably ended up working for the U.S. government in a way.
Well, we have one member in our dig team who's had some pretty deep political connections. Well, more than one, but one in particular I'm thinking of, and connections through their governor and even to the White House. And they were getting messages going, "We can get you out. You know, we'll get you out." And she said, "I'm not leaving Scott. You know, we got this, okay." And so it was a great shared experience, and we were able to see God providentially work. And I think the main thing that I communicated to people that helped on that very first morning was, whatever we do, it's going to be motivated by faith and not by fear. And you're going to hear a lot of things in media and be feeling different emotions. And I understand, you know, everyone processes these things differently, but what we're doing is we're going to operate out of faith, and that we do have a sovereign God. We're going to make good plans, and we're going to trust God that it's going to work out. And once we set that tone, and then we saw the provision of God financially and many other ways, you know, everybody just was able to ride that wave of faith, and get out in God's providence. Yeah.
Wow. Well, to shift things a little bit, Scott, you had another season of excavation. Anything you can share with us and with the audience as to what you might have uncovered this season, or because you know, those are the adventures, of course, getting there and getting out. But while you were there, what
Yeah,
did you
the
find?
reason we were there.
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 main things that we're working on. We have been for a number of years, and we will for several more seasons until we finish. And that is the monumental building, which we believe is the tabernacle structure, which spans areas H and K on the northern slope. Closely matches the dimensions of the biblical tabernacle. We're now at floor level, and the walls are exposed to over 2 meters in some places.
Wow.
And so
Now, Scott,
yes.
just for the uneducated out there that might not know, explain what, I mean, we think of the tabernacle, we think of a tent, but
Yeah.
you're talking about structures. So how does this correlate and compare, and how do they make sense of that?
Well, that's a great question. 1 Samuel 3, we see a change in language. In English, people can pick it up easily, but it's even more clear in Hebrew, where you're moving from a temporary structure to a permanent structure. There, you begin to read about the doors of the house of the Lord. It's even called the temple of the Lord in 1 Samuel 3. And so commentaries, go back and look at old commentaries, commentators have often noted it appears that a permanent building was built there. And then we move into the Mishnaic literature. The Zebayim 14:6 and the Seder Olam 8 both say that a permanent building was built at Shiloh with a tent over it as a roof. So it's a quasi tabernacle tent structure according to 1 Samuel 3 and the two places in the Mishnah.
Sort of a transition.
Transitional. Yeah, think of even like maybe what David's tabernacle may have been, a transitional structure. But yeah, and we don't have any domestic structures at Shiloh until that building is built, which is in like LB2B. And so in the late 13th century, when the permanent building is built, now we begin to see houses built on the site as well. And I've often thought maybe their mindset is kind of like David said, how can I build myself a house when God is still living in a tent?
Yeah.
So once this structure is built, then we begin to see these domestic structures.
Great.
So now we've moved across into area K, which where you were working when you were with us, David, was in area 8. So we moved just to the east because the building spans all the way across.
Right.
And now we're exposing those walls and probably about 3 more years to get down to floor level. But when we start on the top, of course, we've got Islamic remains and then Byzantine remains and Roman remains, Iron Age, Persian, then Iron Age 2 and so forth. Well, along the way, lots of very interesting things. For example, this year in one of those squares, we uncovered a mold for a lamp, a Herodian lamp type D, which is very rare and which is now a publication is in the works of this. So I'm not going to show the picture. There's never been one found. Never.
Oh, wow. The mold.
The mold.
And the lamps they found.
The lamps have been found, but the mold has never been found of this particular type.
Because we found an entire.
There's a whole typology of these lamps.
Yeah, we found a Herodian one at Hammam,
right,
in our area, but never a mold. So
no,
pretty exciting.
Typologists haven't found one. So it's carved into stone and just this beautiful, beautiful mold. So those are the types of things that are super exciting and keep people fired up as they're finding coins and molds and scarabs and things along the way as we're getting down into the area of our primary research focus. So just east of that building, maybe 35 meters to the east of it, is a large Favissa, or a sacred bone deposit that we've been working on now for several seasons. And we made great progress in that, in defining where the core Favissa ends and the dissipating Favissa continues. And you have these in many temples, and it's the evidence of the sacrificial system that was going on. You can't have a Favissa without a temple, because these are the remains of sacrificed animals and pottery and associated finds, which of course at Shiloh, then your wheels are turning immediately, because what temple do we think of at Shiloh but the Tabernacle, right? And the Israelite sacrificial system.
Sure.
Our zoo archaeologist this season, Dr. Haskell Greenfield from University of Manitoba, was able to narrow this down. And he said to me, Scott, you're not going to believe this. 99.9% of the bones out of the core Favissa are kosher bones, predominantly from young animals, with a slight disproportionality for the right side of the animal from the left side of the animal. Very exciting. And so the finds within the faith, and we have articles, we're in the works for all these different things. There's a bunch of stuff that'll be dropping. I just had a new Shiloh article come out a couple of months ago on scarabs from Shiloh, but several other things that are in the works. And then the gate complex, just down below the monumental building, outside the wall, we have a large complex. It looks like there's an outer gate, very similar to the Tal el-Imam, by the way, with an outer gate and then an inner gate structure, not the later Solomonic type, but more of the Bronze Age type of outer gate, inner gate with an arm on it. So we're continuing to expose that. The pillars are preserved to their original height. And we know this because there's a niche in the wall, the perimeter wall, that we put a beam in, and it goes right across the top of the pillars. So those are the three main things that we're uncovering. In probably 3 more seasons of excavation, we should be able to finish those 3 things, and that'll be a nice stopping point for us.
Great. Any artifacts of mention that sort of singular things? You've got the oil lamp mold. Some scarabs?
4 scarabs this season, and a couple of bulla and impressions, a plaque seal as well. we're now collaborating with Christoph Eulinger, who is the man as far as publications on scarabs and impressions go. And he's now including all of our glyptic finds within the massive database, and then we've got other articles spinning off of it. Gary Uri,
Right.
who is a PhD candidate at VIU, is writing his PhD on scarabs. And so he's kind of my right-hand man at Shiloh on processing, all of these finds. And Gary and I are doing some co-writing on that. Always exciting when you find glyptic type things.
Yeah.
And because of the wet sifting, it's just phenomenal. We're at now like 30 or more scarab, bula, glyptic type things. That's not counting the rolled types of cylinder type impressions. Well, that's just like 80% more than the previous excavations, the Danish excavation, the Bar-Ilan excavation, and it's the methodology. It's the fact that when we wet sift, we don't miss those small finds.
Yeah.
And so we can really, I think, tell the story of Shiloh more accurately than it has been in the past.
Now you've got a new device this year, I think, that you started using with the botanical finds. Yeah. How's that working out?
It attaches to the wet sifting complex. And so what we do is we take flotation samples, and instead of what we used to do is we would take a pail of water, a pail, fill it half full of soil from an important locus, then fill it with water, stir it up real good, and then skim the best we could seeds off of the top. I mean, that's what we had, right? But our new system is a heavy fraction system, and it has 5 levels of screens. So there's a machine that churns the mix, and then as it goes through these screens, increasingly smaller the lower you go, by the time you get to this bottom screen, beads, I just can't imagine the thousands of beads that we must have missed in the past.
Wow.
Because it's not till you get to that lowest level of the screen. We've got fish bones. We thought people didn't eat fish in biblical times. There were never any fish bones found. Well, it's because they're so small, they go through the screens.
All right.
So lowest screens now, we have floral and faunal remains, which we have been missing in the past, and occasionally exciting things like beads as well. All of those then from our important loci are worked on. Dr. Linda is our on-site botanist, and then she'll prepare everything and we'll take it to Germany, where Dr. Andrea is one of the world's leading botanists, and so she'll then Tübingen is famous for their work on botany.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so she'll get the seeds all categorized, and we'll know the species and phylum and genus and all this, so that we know what their diet was in different time periods, when certain things became extinct, because we have a lot of plants that in biblical times were still alive and functional that have since gone extinct. And so
Right.
this level of data allows us to understand those types of changes in ways that we never could in the past. So it's very exciting.
Oh, that's great. Well, Scott, it's been great to get caught up, and I was planning to perhaps join you this year, but I left my plans to slightly the last minute, and then the war all broke out, and I thought, and some other things that it didn't work out, but maybe providentially it was a good thing for me. But I'm really pleased for you and the crew and the team that after having worked there a season, to see the progress. And how many more seasons do you think you've got remaining? And
I estimate 3 more seasons. So we've completed 7 seasons. We missed 2 during the pandemic, but we've completed 7. And I think 3 more seasons, more or less, is where we are to finish the northern slope. We will have done a tremendous amount of work. And just providentially, I mean, I couldn't have drawn this out any better. Imagine my surprise when we began to uncover this building that seemed to match the description of the Tabernacle, and then the Favissa, and then the gate. The 3 things I was most interested in, happened or providentially were in our area. So that'll be a nice place where we can stop and work on publications and let the world know what happened at Shiloh in biblical times.
yeah, well, maybe you could just give everybody a quick overview of the significance of Shiloh. They read their Bibles, but they may not understand sort of the importance of the site in biblical history. Just a real quick
Sure. Well, understand that when Joshua 18:1 says that Joshua had the tabernacle erected at Shiloh. When he does, Jerusalem is still a pagan city, and it remains a pagan city for 300 years. I mean, we're talking a long period of time where Shiloh is the capital or the cultic center. At least it's where you went to connect with God. And in a theocracy, that's the capital. And these people like Hannah and Elkanah, they were messed up just like us. I mean, sin fractures our vertical relationship with God, our horizontal relationships with each other. And they were able to go, and through the shedding of blood, Leviticus 17:11 says there is remission of sin. And they were able to reconnect with God and with each other. And there was Shiloh, centrally located in the Ephraim tribal allotment, Joshua's hometown, just a few miles away, Timnah-Heres. And it becomes this focal point where people can express Yahwehism, live out Yahwehism, in contrast to the pagan polytheism all around them. Of course, the Israelites backslid many times along the way. And even in the final, Samuel narratives, we see that Eli's own sons are certainly not keeping the faith. Shiloh continues even after its abandonment and destruction, continues to play a prominent role. There's a prophet named Ahijah that is prominent in the early Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2 transition. Jeroboam's wife, runs into this guy, and he's giving the word of the Lord. And so people were still going to Shiloh to get the word of the Lord. And so you have prophets that are there, and later you have the fascinating story of the women dancing at Shiloh and the Benjamite men. Is sort of an early Christian mingle. Well, it wouldn't be Christian mingle, Jewish mingle, I guess.com. This mating thing going on at Shiloh through the girls dancing in the vineyards. And then the prophet Jeremiah, God says to Jeremiah just before Jerusalem is destroyed, go now to Shiloh, where I first caused my name to dwell, and see what I did there. And that's really what our mandate is to go to Shiloh, see what God did there, and then I would add something to that and to make it known.
Wow, that's really exciting. And you've been able to live out the scripture almost literally. And
yeah,
exciting.
It's such a blessing. I often quote Psalm 102:14, blessed are those who love your dust and cherish your stones. And that's us. I mean, we love this dust, we cherish these stones, and it's a real privilege for us to get to do what we're doing.
I would say everybody puts their focus as the most important city, maybe Jerusalem, but Shiloh would be right up there, probably as one of the most important archaeological digs in Israel.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Where the Ark of the Covenant was. So,
Jerusalem has urban sprawl. And so the digs in Jerusalem are always a challenge. Whereas at Shiloh, we don't have that urban sprawl. And so we have access where we can see what life was like in a sacrificial system, how people interacted and these things. And perhaps from that, extrapolate what it would have been like later in Jerusalem.
Wow, so exciting. So you get to find out what they ate and what they sacrificed and how they lived, and all from the dirt under our feet. It's pretty exciting.
I would say, David, one last thing that your listeners, all 250,000 of them, may find interesting, is that we've never found human bone at Shiloh, because people bury outside the cities normally. So if you find human bone, they're usually murder victims, or there's some kind of trauma that took place, like a wall falling on people or something. But we have found human bones in the gate area, including a cranium. And of course, we immediately think about who died in the gate at Shiloh, other than Eli, right? So we're looking for the rest of this person, and maybe the next time we talk, I'll know more about him.
Wow, exciting. Well, really appreciate you coming on. I know you've got to run to a meeting, Scott, to come on today and share, give us an update as to what's been happening, and a little bit on the journey and the travels and how God provided. So really appreciate you taking the time to share with us.
Well, I'm happy to do it, my friend. And if all your listeners would each one send a few bucks, we'll be able to send you next year to Shiloh to help me finish out this work that we started.
Exciting. We'll put some links at the bottom of our podcast when it comes out. So
We accept shekels, dinar, French franc, yen, anything.
Denarii,
Denarii, whatever it is.
Well, that's great, Scott. And if folks want to, volunteer and go on a dig, we just did a podcast with one of the volunteers from Tullahoma and Shiloh, Glenn Ruffle.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Sure.
One in Glenn. And so people want to find out what that's really like, find out from Glenn what it was, what was happening and how it all happened. So appreciate it. Really good to get caught up again, and we'll perhaps have you back on in the near future for another update from next year.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to it. Blessings to you guys.
Yeah, great then. Take care. God
thanks
bless.
for your time. I really appreciate it. This is we've only been on for maybe about a little over 30 minutes, and look at all the information that you related to us pretty quickly, from your experience of getting to Israel, the events that occurred there unexpectedly because of the situations, making your way back to Egypt, and the people being able to return home, and as quite an experience. And you did make a statement that I thought was very interesting, that it seemed like there was a time of uncertainty because of the situation, but then it transpired that at the very end you went to Egypt and even furthered their experience even more by visiting the sites in Egypt. So even through the traumas, something else occurred that made it much more, like an experience. You went on the dig, and then you faced these traumas successfully. Then you went to another. You had to go through Jordan as well, correct? To get there, you had to go through Jordan.
No, we were able to cross down it a lot directly into Egypt.
Oh, that's right. You said, because you said, what's that? Nueva.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but there's all that uncertainty. Thanks for the correction. So, but wow. But at the very end, there's more added to the adventure.
Yeah, exactly. When I got home, go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
I'm just not sure what I'm going to call this. Archaeology, doing archaeology in a war, or
the archaeology of conflict or something.
the adventures of archaeology in a war.
Well, David, they had that movie that was really popular. It was called Don't Look Up. You can change this when you say, go ahead and look up.
I was going to say that when I got home, I immediately had to fly to San Diego, which is not what I wanted to do after being gone for six weeks. But I took Janet with me. I unpacked and repacked, and off we went to San Diego. I was speaking at a conference at University of California, San Diego, that Tom Levy had put together. And the theme was the Exodus. And so even though that's the last thing I wanted to do when I got home, I thought, I can't pass this up. This is too good. Of course, it's all being published right now, so I'm working on my article and so forth for that publication. But everyone kind of knew what I had just come out of. And so when I got up to speak, the first thing I said was, well, let me tell you about the reverse Exodus. So, I've kind of coined that phrase now.
That's a good lead in.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, Scott.
All right. God bless you guys.
God bless.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
talk
you.
again
Everybody,
soon.
Take care.
thanks for joining us. What a great time. Thanks, Scott, for sharing. David, co-hosting, really appreciate you leading this conversation here. Both of you worked at a number of excavations together. And everybody, thanks for supporting us. Hey, if you get a chance, support the dig at Shiloh. And if you got the time, join Scott and his crew. And I can't think of a more exciting place to be, especially representing the events in what we would call our Old Testament. Shiloh would be the place. And It seems like they are finding some very exciting archaeological endeavors and artifacts. And remember your friend Glenn said, and it helped him, and he's becoming a minister. He is a minister now at a church. And how this helps in your Christian walk in life and sharing that experience with other people. Everybody, thanks so much, Scott, David, and everybody joining us. This was just been fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, until next time. next week, everybody. We'll see you later.